I want to speak directly to the part of you that knows all too well the feeling of regret that comes after the storm, the universal pain of being hijacked by an emotion, be it anger, anxiety, or overwhelming sadness, and in that trance, acting in ways that hurt others and yourself. It's the feeling of being a puppet whose strings are pulled by invisible forces that you have no control over. You watch from the inside, helpless, as another part of you takes over. And when the dust settles, all that's left is shame and the question, why did I do it again? From an early age, most of us were taught how to deal with it the wrong way. We were told to control our emotion, to suppress our anger, to swallow our tears. But as the great master of the psyche, Carl Jung, taught us, trying to suppress an emotion is like trying to sink a buoy in the water with your bare hands. You may be able to do it for a moment, but the energy you use to push it down is the same energy that will bring it back to the surface with even greater force, and often in a distorted and unrecognizable form. Jung's wisdom offers us a radically different path, one not of control, but of awareness. He reminds us of our innate ability to choose who we are, beyond our wounds and reaction. In his words, I am not what has happened to me, I am what I choose to become. The technique we are going to explore today is the tool that allows us to access this power of choice at the exact moment when it seems lost. It is what allows us to move from total identification with the emotion, from the state of I am anger, to the state of conscious observation, where we can say, I feel the energy of anger moving within me. The 3-second technique I'm going to share with you is not a magic formula that will eliminate your emotion. It is, in fact, a consciousness switch, a simple, deliberate act that, at the height of the storm, takes us out of the dark, damp basement of the reactive unconscious and transports us to the command tower of our observing consciousness. It is from this tower that we can see the storm without being the storm, and it is from this place true freedom is born. What if between the emotional trigger that sets off your habitual reaction and the reaction itself, there was a space of just 3 seconds? What if in that small, precious space were contained all your freedom, all your power of choice? Let's find that space now. To find freedom, we first need to understand the nature of our prison. The feeling that remains after an emotional outburst, after a hijacking, is almost always one of profound shame and helplessness. It is that disconcerting sensation that it was not really you there, as if another personality, darker, more childish or more wounded, had taken control of your body and your voice, wreaking havoc on your relationships, your decisions, and your peace. And this feeling of not being myself is, perhaps, the most important clue of all. What Jung's psychology teaches us is that this feeling is, in fact, real. An uncontrolled emotion is not just a feeling. It is the activation of what he called the autonomic complex. A complex is like a small solar system inside our psyche, a collection of memories, ideas, and feelings charged with very intense emotional energy, usually formed around a trauma or a wound from the past. It lives in our unconscious and acts as a sub-personality with its own desires and fears. Therefore, what you're facing is not a weakness of character. It is a real and powerful psychic mechanism. And here is the revelation that changes the way you fight this battle. You are not, in fact, fighting a feeling. You are being temporarily possessed by a complex, and trying to fight it using only your willpower is like trying to put out a fire by throwing more fuel on it. The complex feeds on energy, and your struggle and resistance give it exactly what it needs to grow stronger. The only thing an autonomous complex cannot tolerate, its only weakness, is being exposed to the light of consciousness. It loses all its power when it is seen, named, and understood. To begin to bring this light, we can do a little investigation after an emotional hijacking has occurred. When the dust settles, in a moment of calm, grab a notebook and, with the curiosity of a detective, ask yourself, first, what was the exact word, tone of voice, or specific situation that seemed to trigger all of it? Second, when this emotion takes hold of me, how old do I feel like a 5-year-old, a rejected teenager? And third, where in my body do I feel this energy most strongly? Is it a tightness in my chest, a lump in my throat, a fire in my stomach? This mapping begins to give a face and a name to your captor. Think of a complex as an old, hypersensitive smoke alarm that has become wired to the memory of a major fire that once broke out in your house. Today, the current situation may be just harmless steam rising from a pot in the kitchen, but to this old alarm, smoke is smoke, and it goes off with the same desperate intensity as the original fire, flooding your entire system, your entire body, with the knowledge that you are in mortal danger, right here and now. One of the biggest obstacles to change is the feeling that everything happens too fast. The reaction is so immediate, so automatic, that there seems to be no room for any choice. It is the experience of thinking. When I saw it, I had already screamed. When I realized it, I'd already responded to that message aggressively. In the blink of an eye, I had already given up. This feeling of immediacy leaves us powerless, believing that we are incapable of intervening in a process that is faster than our own thinking. And the truth is that this feeling is correct. Neuroscience shows us that our emotional brain, especially a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala, reacts to a trigger in milliseconds, long before our thinking and rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, has time to process what is happening. Your emotional reaction is a survival response, an ancestral program, a true neural autopilot that was designed to protect you from physical danger, but that today is activated by emotional and psychological danger. And here is the great break in expectation, the point where neuroscience and contemplative wisdom meet. The 3-second pause that we are going to practice is not, in its essence, a mental act. It is, first and foremost, a physiological act. By intentionally stopping your body, you are sending a stop signal to your brain. You are cutting off the flow of panic that the amygdala has initiated and giving your prefrontal cortex, the wise and adult part of your brain, the precious time it needs to come online. You are literally changing the route of information within your brain from the reactive path to the conscious path. And this is the simple and profound act that contains all your freedom. When you feel the wave of reactive emotion rising, the invitation is for this 3-second ritual. In the first second, stop. Just stop. Freeze your body exactly where it is. If you're walking, stop. If you're about to speak, close your mouth. If you're typing, take your fingers off the keyboard. This physical act is the emergency brake. It interrupts the body's automatic pattern. In the second, name it, silently. In your mind, name the energy you're feeling. Say, oh, hello anger, irto, or I see you, anxiety, or that's sadness. This simple act of naming already begins to activate your observing brain, your prefrontal cortex. You stop being the emotion and start being the one observing it. And in the 3rd second, breathe. Take a deep, slow breath, feeling it sink all the way down to your belly, all the way to your diaphragm. A single, deep, conscious breath is the quickest and most effective way to communicate to your nervous system that, despite the alarm that's gone off, you're safe. Breathing is the anchor that brings you back to your body and the present moment. Think of an uncontrolled emotional reaction as a computer program that automatically launches, crashes your entire system. You can't do anything else. The 3-second pause is your Ctrl plus Alt Del. It doesn't instantly close the program, but it does something even more important. It opens the task manager, it breaks the crash cycle and gives you back the power to look at the program that's running and consciously choose what you're going to do next. The 3-second pause gives us the power to stop the hijack. But what happens in this space we create? To understand it, we need to look at the anguish of immersion. It is the pain of seeing the entire world through the lens of the emotion that dominates. When we are angry, everything and everyone seems irritating and provocative. When we are anxious, any uncertainty becomes a catastrophic threat. When we are sad, the world loses its color and hope. This total loss of perspective happens because we merge with the emotion. We become one with forgetting who we really are. This is where Jung's wisdom offers us the key to sovereignty. He teaches us to differentiate our ego from ourself. Our ego is the everyday I, the center of our consciousness, the part of us that identifies with experiences and says, I am sad, or I am an angry person. The self, on the other hand, is the true center of our entire psyche. It is our totality, our deepest self, the silent observer that exists behind our thoughts and emotion. The self is the part of us that knows, with a deep calm, that our ego is simply experiencing grief. And this is the revelation that has the power to set us free forever. You are not the emotion, you are the space in which the emotion occurs. Your anger, your sadness, your anxiety, they are like passing clouds in the sky of your consciousness. Some are dark and stormy, others are light and fleeting. But you are not the cloud, you are the sky, the vast, open, unchanging sky that contains all the cloud, but is never marred or diminished by them. Our pain comes not from the cloud itself, but from our mistaken belief that we are the cloud, and our fear that the storm will never pass. To cultivate this awareness of the inner sky, we can practice what is called the language of the witness. It is a small but powerful shift in the way we speak to ourselves in our mind. During the day, start practicing observing you. When you catch yourself thinking, I am stressed, pause and consciously rephrase it to, I notice the feeling of stress arising in me right now. Instead of, I am angry, try, I recognize the energy of anger moving through my body. This small change of word, this syntax of the soul, creates an immense space between the observer and the observed. And in that space lies all your power. Being controlled by an emotion is like sitting in the front row of a movie theater watching a horror film in 3D. You are totally immersed in the story, jumping in fright at every scene, completely forgetting that you are in a movie theater. Practicing mindful observation, using the pause to create space, is like getting up from your seat and calmly walking to the projection booth at the back of the room. From there, you still see the same intense movie playing on the screen with all its scary scenes, but now you know it's a movie. And more importantly, you know you're in control of the projector. The 3-second pause is the key that opens the cell door. But once the door is open, we are faced with a new dilemma. The emotion is still there. The energy of anger, anxiety, or sadness continues to vibrate in our body, like the string of a guitar that has been played hard. It still asks to go somewhere, to be expressed in some way. And the great confusion, the great question mark that arises at this moment is, I didn't explode. What now? What do I do with all this that I'm still feeling? For Jung's deep psychology, no psychic energy is lost or exists without a reason. Your emotions are not problems to be solved. They are valuable information, messengers that emerge from your unconscious to bring you important news about your inner world. Anger is often not just aggression. It is the guardian that points out to you where a boundary has been violated. Anxiety is not just fear. It is the scout that alerts you to an area of your life where you lack preparation or confidence. Sadness is not just weakness. It is the healer that shows you what loss needs to be acknowledged and mourned so that you can move forward. And this is the revelation that transforms the pause from a simple defense mechanism into a powerful tool of alchemy. The purpose of the pause is not to kill the emotion. It is to create a safe and sacred space for you to dialogue with it. The question we ask ourselves evolves. It ceases to be the victim's question, how do I let go of this? And becomes the alchemist's question, what have you come to teach me? What are you trying to tell me? What part of me that I have ignored for so long needs my attention and care now? To begin this dialogue, we can use the wisdom of our own body. After pausing, when you feel the energy of the emotion vibrate, gently place your hand on the place in your body where you feel it most intensely. It could be your chest, your stomach, or your throat. And with your hand there, as a gesture of care and attention, silently ask that feeling, what is your message for me? And then just stay silent for a minute. Don't search for an answer with your mind. Just receive the first word, the first image, or the first feeling that arises, without any kind of judgment. Trust the answer that comes. Think of a reactive and uncontrolled emotion as a panting messenger who breaks down the door of your house, screaming and panicking. Your unconscious reaction, the emotional hijacking, is to scream back and forcefully expel it, without ever knowing what it came to say. Practicing the pause in alchemy is like watching that same messenger break down the door. But instead of expelling it, you calm it down. You invite him in, offer him a glass of water, and when he catches his breath, you calmly ask him to hand you the letter he is carrying. The message in that letter is always important, and it is always for you. After you feel the power of this pause, a new doubt may arise in your heart. It is the fear of inconstancy, the fear that this technique is only a palliative, a temporary solution, and that in the next big emotional storm, when life really tests you, all of this will fall apart. and you will return to being the puppet you were before. This doubt is natural, because for a long time, reactivity was your only mode of operation. But what we are building here is much more than a temporary shelter. What we are building, pause by pause, is what Jung would call the strengthening of the conscious ego. Each time you apply the 3-second pause and consciously choose your response, you are weakening the tyranny of your unconscious complexes and transferring the power back to the center of your personality. You are actively engaged in your own process of individuation, the process of becoming a conscious, integrated individual who is no longer governed by the wounds of the past. And the most important expectation breaking of all is this: the ultimate goal of this path is not to become an emotionless robot, an apathetic and indifferent being. The goal is to build an inner center so strong, so stable, and so resilient, a true inner citadel, that you can afford to experience the full and magnificent range of human emotion without being destroyed by it. The goal is not the absence of feeling. The goal is resilience. It is being able to feel the fury of the storm without letting it tear you out from your roots. The long-term consequence of this practice is what we might call vibrational sovereignty. By practicing the pause consistently, you stop emitting a frequency of chaotic reactivity, drama, and instability into the world. Instead, you begin emitting from your center a frequency of calm, stability, and conscious power. And this shift in your energetic signature fundamentally changes the way reality, opportunities, and most importantly, other people respond to and interact with. Think of each 3-second pause you practice as a rep in the gym of your psyche. At first it's hard, the muscle of awareness is weak, and you'll fail a few times. But with each attempt, each time you manage to create a second of space, you are strengthening that muscle. With time and consistent practice, what was once a crushing weight that could knock you to the ground becomes something you can lift with grace, power, and the wisdom of someone who knows their own strength. On this journey, we move from being the puppet of our unconscious complexes to becoming the conscious observer who illuminates them. We stop being the victim of emotion and become the alchemist who dialogues with. We discover that our greatest freedom is not out there, but within a small space of 3 seconds. Always remember the essence of this practice. The 3-second pause, the act of stopping, naming, and breathing, is the golden key that opens the door to your reactive prison. It is your daily, moment-by-moment act of claiming your divine right to choose who you want to be, beyond your wound. For as Jung himself warned us, in one of his most famous and true phrases, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it destiny." The practice of pausing is the most direct and effective method for taking the wheel of your life and taking control of your own destiny, one reaction at a time. The ultimate goal is not to silence the magnificent orchestra of your emotion. They are the music of life itself, with their joyful, sad, furious, and peaceful tones. The goal is for you to step out of the audience, where you were deafened by the noise, step up to the podium, take the baton, and become the conductor of your own soul, able to conduct your inner symphony with power, wisdom, and compassion. Your greatest freedom lies not in changing the world outside, but in mastering the 3-second space within you. Practice pausing. Claim your power. Choose who you want to be, reaction by reaction. The journey to becoming the master of yourself begins now.